Welcome to the future of nuclear. Our conversation today is with a conservationist, an avid recycler, environmentalist, a degreed materials engineer from Cal Poly, an experienced harvester of smashed grapes, a former manufacturer of bovine rectal thermometers, a writer of abnormal and emergency procedures for nuclear plants, no stranger to a composting toilet, an activist, a winner of the Environmental Progress Courage Award, working mom, and the founder of Mothers for Nuclear. Welcome, Heather Hoff.
That might be the best introduction I've ever gotten, Phil. Thank you.
That's excellent. Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to speak with you. You've done some amazing things. And when I was prepping for this conversation, some things really struck me about your background. I saw some pattern that just kept reemerging that I wanted to honor and highlight. Just to put a point on it, you seem to have a knack for fitting in while not fitting in. And it's kind of a counterculture yet conforming, right? There's no cowboys in the control room, but here you are.
Yeah, I used to get yelled at. My colleagues would say, "Heather, no running in the control room." So sorry.
You have a homesteader-ish background, very conservationalist, yet you chose engineering, which is usually not the choice. We were in school at the same time at U of A, and it was a very male-dominated engineering program. So engineering is hard. You ran to that difficulty. You got involved right away with Society of Women's Engineers, with Alpha Phi Omega. You got your degree, then you chose nuclear power, which is also hard, doesn't close its doors at 5 p.m. It's also a male-dominated industry. And then you went into operations, which is even more male-dominated, generally more military-based, a lot of Navy nuke feeder programs. And then you got your reactor license, which is like, for those that don't know, getting a master's degree in physics or engineering, and there it is on your wall. It's a huge accomplishment, so congratulations on that.
Yeah.
But you still kept running to hard things. You saw your employer making a bad choice for their future, and you became an activist that's contrary to their direction. And I say contrary because I don't see any evidence of you fighting them or being against them in any way. It was, they're making a bad decision. How can I help them on a better path that's going to be more socially, economically, and strategically beneficial for them? So you ran towards that. Full-time working mother co-founds a nonprofit, contrary to your company's decision to do the right thing for them. There it is. You keep running toward hard things, but you're not running to them to fight them. You're running to them to encourage them, to support them, to help them on a better path. It's awe-inspiring. How do you do that?
Well, thank you. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. That's I think, my parents kind of just always encouraged me that I could do whatever I wanted. My dad was super into experimenting and kind of knowing how the world worked, and he would come up with these crazy ideas to do like implement this I don't know, experiments basically, and he would just like know that they would work because he knows how the world works. And it was just amazing to grow up around him. And my mom was just such a hard worker, so tough and strong. And we grew up kind of in a rural area in Arizona, and it was not an easy life. She was carrying laundry almost like with a basket on her head, like down to the washing machine, like quite a jaunt from our trailer in top of the world Arizona. And like weed whacking to prevent fires on our properties. And yeah, you already mentioned the composting toilet. My dad built that and just like managed our whole lives up there. And grew up with that, and I think was kind of used to a hard lifestyle, and also thought that's how I was going to save the world and the planet. And my dad was a little bit of a, population bomb, depression, depressionist, and very pessimistic about the state of the planet and the world. And I inherited a lot of that from hearing him talk about it, and watching him cry watching the news and various things. And just really wanted to do everything I could to help. Maybe that's where the engineering came from, like, even though it was pretty hard, and I like to pretend that I'm good at math. I don't think I actually am. My sister's a math teacher though, so I could be wrong. Maybe it's we got a little of science and math genetics, or just encouragement from our parents. And I wanted to do anything I could to help. Engineering a solution, maybe, after I realized that not everyone wanted to be like me and conserve and live a hard life and compost their poop and all that stuff. Like, people don't really want that. So, as I kind of got frustrated realizing that, I started thinking about how do we make, a better, bigger solution for all the people that are on this planet, and how to kind of like stabilize our situation. And as you mentioned, I happened into nuclear energy. It took me a long time and a lot of questions to address all my fears about it, and really change my mind, because I was pretty skeptical and pretty scared. And it was a very gradual transition, of driving up that access road to the plant every day for about 6 years. And it's a beautiful plant. There's a picture over there with a whale jumping in front of the plant. And, it's surrounded by about 14 miles of coastline, just pristine. Nature is thriving all around the plant. And eventually I was like, oh my gosh, nuclear is amazing. We make 10% of California's electricity on this tiny footprint of land, and it's pretty great. And energy is what people need to have good quality of life, and to modernize and to build up our societies in a way that can let populations stabilize. So nuclear became, my hope for the future, my hope for humanity on this planet. And again, as you mentioned, when my company decided to shut down the plant early, I felt like I had to do something, and felt like I did have a unique story of changing my mind and what I care about and why, and that more people deserve to hear about that, and hopefully could change their minds as well.
Well, it's exciting because it's not about money, right? I mean, that's the natural instinct to say, like, oh, your job could be going away, so you're fighting for your job, but you're fighting for a lot more than your job, right?
I do make pretty good money, and I really love my job. However, I think I'm one of the only employees that I know that's actually advocated against our employee retention bonus, which lots of people hate me for that. But I really do this work, out of the goodness of my heart, and because it does give me, value and hope for the future. A feeling that I'm contributing to something bigger and better, a better future.
I think my view and what I've seen talking to folks over the last year plus is the next generation behind us that is advocating for nuclear, that's pro-nuclear, is more pro-nuclear than, because of the social impact, because of the social and climate and environmental impact. It's more cause related. I'm second generation nuclear. We had a very similar yet completely different backgrounds that led us to very similar places, ironically. But I grew up in it. I lived in Arizona growing up also during Palo Verde construction. It's the longest I'd ever lived anywhere my whole life. That was 5 years. We moved from plant to plant to plant. Growing up, my father was a control room engineer, focused on startup. And so through the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of travel for startup from plant to plant. Obviously, major hours. Didn't see a lot of them during those evolutions. But for him, it was about money. He had two kids coming out of after the war, and it was, I have a GI Bill. I need to make money. Where do I go? Nuclear pays really well. There's lots of nuclear jobs. I'm going to be a nuclear engineer. So he did it for the money. He steered me towards nuclear for the money, and I took me a decent amount of my career to steer away from that, trying
Mhm.
different things. I left nuclear for a brief time and went to addiction recovery, searching for a way to contribute and provide my skills to something more meaningful. And then I found myself back in nuclear, but with a mission to make it more sustainable, more affordable, more responsible choice to make nuclear power. I never want to see another financial shutdown again because I'm convinced we can operate nuclear power as affordably as fossil.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be connecting with you, and I love both of our stories and how they're similar and how they're different. And yeah, I think there's a lot changing with the next generation and how they come upon nuclear. I think a lot more people are going into nuclear because they research energy when they're young. They do a report or a project in high school or college, and happen upon this amazing solution that's called nuclear energy, and they're like, oh my gosh, how come more people aren't doing this or talking about it? And so they dig in, and I love seeing that and hearing about all those stories of students that discover nuclear for that reason. And yeah, I hope to see more and more of that. And I think it'll be really healthy for our industry too. You mentioned a lot of people do work in nuclear for the money, and we have a lot of Navy nukes that kind of like get training in that. So they just like kind of, it's a natural progression for them to come into commercial nuclear operations. And so there's a lot of different mentalities. You mentioned, like going places where you might not fit. And that's been a definite theme in my life. And I feel pretty lonely at work sometimes because people are very different than me, but it has been shifting. I've been there 20 years now, and when I first started and I was in operations, I guess I dealt with that difference a little bit by trying to hide the fact that I was female, like no makeup, hair in a ponytail, like very plain clothes all the time. Don't want anyone to notice that I'm female really, and just gonna go and like ask a lot of questions and be curious and learn. And it was a great place for that. They really encouraged, and I never really felt any kind of open discrimination. So that was nice. But I still think there are kind of inherent challenges in our industry that people just don't recognize. They don't know that they kind of have an inherent way that they behave that's maybe not supportive of females or women. So I'm excited to see that shift and to help it shift.
How, what's the best thing we can all do to be more of an ally to create that shift? There's tremendous amount of value in having more diversity in the nuclear program, not just as an operator doing rounds, or a maintenance person. There's not every nook and cranny is ideal for a 6 foot 200 pound human. There's some
Yeah.
spots where it makes a lot more sense to be 5 foot 100 pounds.
Yeah. Well, I'm 5'10", so yeah, I'm a little big still, but yeah, like all variety of people are great, and that's something that I've definitely experienced firsthand. Working in the control room, when something happens and our crew's responding, I'm just kind of able to look around and see like no one's doing this one thing that's really important, or like no one's really paying attention to log keeping, or some aspect of everything that we need to do well in nuclear. And the more different kinds of people and different kinds of minds that we have thinking about all those requirements, the better and the stronger we'll be as a team.
Yeah. Is there any momentum or themes that you're seeing at the events you're going to, the people you're talking to, that we should get behind and help, help increase that momentum?
Well, one of the things that we've focused on a lot from our very early days in Mothers for Nuclear is nuclear imagery. and how to kind of change the story of how we talk about nuclear, not just, in storytelling and verbally online and stuff, but with our pictures and imagery. If you go and do a Google image search for nuclear, it's mostly cooling towers from nuclear plants. And then like mushroom clouds and radiation symbols. That's like 99% of what's on Google about nuclear. And so we've always, tried to shift that and have a focus on, creating different posters and sharing beautiful pictures and doing, logos that have hearts and, like climate change has a lot of beautiful art associated with it. We need that for nuclear too. We need to celebrate our nuclear plants and celebrate this huge source of clean energy in a way that people see as a positive and people see as beautiful. So we've been doing that, like off and on since we started, making, cool stickers and different designs of ways to show our support. And they're just all around,
That's cool.
But recently we've also had some very specific events where we decide like we're going to have a paint and sip and it's going to be nuclear themed, and we invite people and we host this event. And this was earlier this year, back in April, I think. We had 15 people that come, and this amazing artist guided us through kind of a thought process of, like, what did it mean to us, when we first got into nuclear? How did we feel about it? A lot of people described their first time driving up to Diablo Canyon to the site and how it felt to have like this difference between like a really industrial facility that's like huge and loud with all this big equipment surrounded by nature and like this pristine landscape. It's kind of like this juxtaposition that you've mentioned also, and kind of how special that is and something that could be celebrated. And so we all did, nuclear painting about those feelings, and those came out really good. And then we also organized an event at the South by Southwest Festival in Austin. So we showed up there with a lot of other pro-nuclear organizations that are partners and hosted an event called Beautiful Nuclear. And it was a nuclear art show. And so we had all kinds of like the paint and sip art. And then we had, like art contests that various different nuclear groups have hosted, Generation Atomic and NAYGN. And a new group that I learned about, Eco-Nuclear Solutions. And we kind of like all pooled all of our resources to get all of this nuclear art, because there isn't very much yet, but we're working on it. So we had a pretty great event there, where South by Southwest attendees could come, and people that were just wandering the neighborhood could come in and give us their comments like, oh, I thought this was going to be anti-nuclear art, and oh, I'm so surprised there is such a thing as pro-nuclear art. And we're like, yeah, there is now. So I've really loved kind of harnessing those feelings and efforts by all the people in nuclear to really showcase what we do in a different way.
How was the reception at South by Southwest? What was the kind of, I'd say, the general event goer?
Yeah, it was fun. We had a side event. We weren't actually in the festival, so there was just a whole variety of different types of people coming in. Like I said, some festival goers and some people that were just in the community. A mom wandered in with her baby in the carrier because she was just out for a walk, and she saw our signs outside. We had gone out with chalk, and made atoms and flowers and like nuclear's clean energy, come find out more, with big arrows. So she just wandered in and, ended up putting one of our Mothers for Nuclear stickers on her baby carrier. So stuff like that is really great, and I'm happy to, see what people are thinking and kind of what their preconceptions are, and talk about that and share that with other people who might want to do similar activities. We did have people reach out to us about our paint and sip too, like, we want to do the same thing. What'd you do? And so it's pretty exciting to see the energy around nuclear growing.
Excellent. That's fantastic. So Speaking of concerns and juxtapositions, I'm curious on your take on the role AI has in society and in nuclear. I know that from a conservationist background, it's got to be a little bit unnerving that AI uses a tremendous amount of electricity. On the other hand, it has potential to do tremendous good for the planet, for populations that are, for productivity, for economic improvement. There's a lot of, I'm extremely optimistic about it, or I wouldn't be doing this for a living. On the other hand, it's a lot of electricity use, but it's also driving us towards nuclear. So it's helping with that resurgence.
It
Do
is,
you feel
yeah, yeah. There's
conflicted
so
by
many
that?
things to think about, yeah, and dive into here. It's a really interesting conversation. And what's the name of this episode again? Something about the future.
Yeah, the future of nuclear power and nuclear
Okay,
energy.
well, yeah. So I've been watching the documentary on Netflix. What's next with Bill Gates, and the very first episode is all about AI, and in some ways, it talks about this and a lot of the similar things that you said about the juxtaposition. It's so hopeful and so exciting, and it's also so scary because they're like, we need someone to regulate us. Like, please come regulate us. Please help us figure out like what could go wrong. We don't even know. So, there's some things, but I mean, I think a lot of what we do as humans is that, right? Like, it's all just one big experiment. So let's go forth and see what good we can create, and how we can better our existing processes, and just really strive towards that future utopia that where maybe we don't have to have wars anymore because people have enough resources that we don't have to fight over them. And maybe nuclear is going to enable enough energy that we can really make progress in much easier ways, less struggle for humans than has been in our history. So yeah, I'm really excited about the possibilities, and somewhat concerned, and I think we all should be, and we should all manage it as best we can.
Is there,
Yeah, that's,
are there,
that's a
are
lot.
there,
There's a lot to dig into there.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you personally are questioning or wondering about? Are there any answers I can provide on AI, especially in this industry?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of just playing around with some of the tools that are out there and learning how to use them. And as a nuclear worker, I think we're also trained to be a little bit conservative and careful in terms of what we bring into our normal processes. So just the other day, like I'm working on this procedure and I need to make a list of something, and I'm at work and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like, it'd be really great to like just I could feed this into AI and it would fix it all, like all the formatting, all the stuff. And it's just we're not quite set up, to like get that information from our computer system that's like into a way that's we can use tools like that. So I'm super excited for that opportunity to expand more and to make all of our lives easier. So we spend less time digging, to find where we have certain documentation. It shouldn't be that hard. And yeah, if we can use our own energy to power that too, I mean, even better, right? Like, it's just like AI is a house load for nuclear. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the goal. I mean, we're in an interesting position because we make AI to make nuclear power more affordable so that we can power more AI so we can make nuclear more affordable.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
trying
And so
to,
you mentioned, yeah, kind of what are my hopes for the future of AI too? I mean, part of the reason that I advocate so strongly for nuclear is what I said before about bringing people out of poverty and like giving humans energy to have good lives. And so now I'm like, oh, we're using our energy to power AI instead of bring people out of poverty. Like 1 billion people still don't have access to reliable electricity. So I want us to do that. But at the same time, like maybe AI can help us bring people out of poverty. Maybe AI can help us solve a lot of these, health issues, medical issues. supply issues, resource issues, like everything. So yeah, I have a lot of hope for kind of just like nuclear as a technology that can help humanity if we choose to use it in the right ways. And I think AI is going to be the same.
Yeah, I said it very well. I'm very encouraged. I'm very optimistic. People ask, why did you choose nuclear as your place to do AI? It seems like a very hard thing to do. And the answer is always, well, one, because they need it, probably more so than anyone else, but also because there's so much information and record keeping in the nuclear business, but it's all in natural language, right? It's a lot of written, it's log files, it's handwritten notes on work orders. It is not structured in a database that is in, some system somewhere that's easy to get answers from. And that's where AI really shines, the ability to ingest all of that natural language and make sense of it and then be able to spit it back out. And so we're seeing just use case after use case to help kind of automate a lot of that mundane and get information to people's fingertips much faster, much easier. That really reduces a lot of the, I'd say, less exciting, less thinking aspect of some of the jobs where you make a decision or is this operable? You know the answer. Now you're going to spend many days justifying it on paper.
Same thing, yeah, as we've already done 20 times before, and yeah, it's out
Yep.
there, but yeah. Well, yeah, I think we have something very similar in that you mentioned doing hard things, and I, I think it's really important to look around you and see where there's a gap, where there's a need that no one else is filling, and to really jump in with your skills and your unique set of attributes where you can make a difference. And that's what I've done with Mothers for Nuclear is I saw a gap in our nuclear communications. We're not reaching mothers and women. Nuclear favorability has the largest polling gap for gender for any issue that we poll about. And so as a female that took a long time changing my mind about nuclear, I just realized that we've got to do something differently. And maybe I could help figure out what that might be and what that could look like. And a lot of this has just been trial and error, but yeah, I keep going and keep getting better, and I think it's working. I think I'm onto something.
Yeah, nuclear plants in North America are fairly standardized with each other. There's a tremendous amount of benchmarking, and there's I'd say a fairly consistent feeling of how perception of nuclear across the continent. You've recently been to COP28, to Japan, to Portugal. What's the feeling on the global scale?
Yeah, well, yeah, Japan, they just restarted Onagawa, which is super exciting. They're looking into waste storage facilities, which are highly controversial. They have a reprocessing plant that they've been working on for years and years, and I don't think it's still quite functional. So I think a lot of places around the world, we're all struggling with the same things, and we also all are recognizing that this is the way forward. So my hope is that we really share information as an industry. And so I think, organizations like, WIN Global, Women in Nuclear Global, WANO, all those like really IAEA groups that share information about nuclear openly with everyone who needs it. They're so important, and we can all learn so much from each other, and that's where tools like AI can be so helpful as well. Like the information's out there. We just need to know how to like get it and use it. And we don't want to be, recreating the wheel, like beating around the bush, doing like just struggling to do these things that someone else knows how to do really well over in Korea or over in the UAE. And yeah, there's so much we can all learn from each other. So I hope that we're openly sharing.
Yeah, and that's one of the strengths of the industry. I think that's somewhat foreign to folks that haven't worked in nuclear power, like how much sharing goes on, how much best practices. And there's a lot of thanks to INPO and WANO, but EPRI and IAEA and NEI, and there's so many others that have really contributed to that. I was on a standards committee for another topic area with lots of industries. And one of my peers in that committee was with one of the three major credit card companies. And we were each building taxonomies to share with our industry of this is how we roll this concept out at our industry level. Here's what it looks like. And the credit card person, banking financial person said, "Oh no, I'm not doing that." And we're like, "Well, you've done such great work. Why don't you want to share it?" It's like, we don't share. This is to help us beat them.
Proprietary.
Yeah, it was so foreign to me. I was just like, "Oh, I guess that is a thing."
Yeah, people are still shocked, when I'm in procedures and I write emergency operating procedures, but we have a whole, standard way of doing that. And so people from other companies are like, hey, can I see your E0? I'm like, sure. And other people see this and they're like, what, you just give them your documents? And we're like, yeah, everyone kind of just, we all share, we all like build each other up. If you got a better way of doing it, like everyone wants to know that. And it's not really a competition thing so much, except everyone's trying to, generate excellence, which is great. So yeah, the more we can help each other do it, I think the more we all succeed.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I went from a plant on one side of the country to a plant on the other side of the country 5 years in between, and I went to the same 1600, end of the day turnover schedule review meeting, and it was the same agenda with the same topics, with literally the same participants sitting in the same order around the same table. And I was like,
Right.
what?
Yeah. Well, it's been 10 years since I've been in shift operations, on crew, and I'm pretty sure I could just walk into the control room and like run a shift brief, and it would be the same format as it was 10 years ago. But that's all right. I mean, we have what works, and
Do you miss shift work?
I miss operating the plant. I miss being an operator, and no, I do not miss shift work. Day shift or night shift? Yeah, definitely day shift. Not even shift, just days.
Really?
Flexibility is great. I think that's something our industry needs to work on a whole lot more. Is people can actually be more productive if you give them, like a certain amount of flexibility, working from home, like shifting hours. You mentioned already, I'm a, full-time working mom. My daughter's in school in finals this week. She's also sick. So I've been home most of the week with her, kind of supporting, trying to get her through the situation. And yeah, that's something that you can't really do when you're on shift in operations. And yeah, so I hope that, we can find some solutions for really prioritizing the human aspect of being on shift. That's still a pretty hard thing. And yeah, especially when you're not on shift, there's way more that we could do. So
Even
I
in
hope to see that.
you prefer day shift even in refueling outages?
Yes. Yeah, I love the action. I mean, I was one of the few people I remember when I was in license class and qualifying, people would like go to the non-outage unit and kind of hang out over there. And I'm like, no, I'm in the action. I want to do like all this stuff. I'm going to volunteer for everything. I'm going to go in containment. I'm going to go in, like the pressurizer cubicle and like all the things. The more you can do, the better in my mind. That's how you really, get your head around like how this whole big, beautiful machine works, is just by doing everything. So
Yeah, you continue to run towards hard things.
yeah, it's good times. I've had some good examples around me too, other operators that, have coached me during outages when, like I'm following a procedure, and I write procedures now. So I remember stuff like this being in the control room, and it says, like, okay, close this valve to, like change RHR flow. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go close this. And they're like, wait, no. What's going to happen when you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, it just says to close it, So like, so yeah, there's a whole lot more that is, pretty hard to write into instructions. And it's been, really a joy to kind of learn some of those things and internalize them. And I'd love to see more tools to help people learn stuff like that. That's, you can't really just tell someone. It's a whole experience to get all the different aspects of what it means to be a good operator. And then, like how many good operators do you need to run a plant well? And like how much support do they need from engineering and all the day shift staff? And it's a huge puzzle, and it's pretty exciting to be a part of.
We're talking about some of the, I guess, the unconscious biases and things that exist when we were talking about some of the, difficulties in these work environments. In some cases, I had a shift manager once tell me he did not recommend I go to license training, and said I would make a terrible operator because I'm an engineer, and engineers spend too much time thinking and not enough time doing.
I've heard that as well. Yes.
So
yeah, and
definitely.
I think that's true in some cases. Like we're all wired differently, and some people are better able to take all the inputs, on the simulator and like really decide how to behave and how to communicate and how to support a team. And it's maybe a thing that you don't really know until you try it. So I'd like to see, a lot of different people trying it.
I would 100% support that. I think there's I don't know how to describe it, but innovation is tricky in this business, right? You don't want to just experiment with reactivity very often, but there are plenty of other areas that, from a business process perspective or a best practice perspective, that experimentation, I think, could drastically benefit. And to some case, we're doing some of that with our customers, is helping them try new things with new technologies, and we're seeing good results there. But it's that diversity of mindset, right? Because the idea that we found the best way to do it, so we're always going to do it like this from now on, and everyone will do it like this, and it's one procedure for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And so getting past that, I think, is tough. It's definitely a mindset, but there are some mavericks that know how to conform, that are usually the folks like you and I would gravitate towards. So I know they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting challenge for sure. Industries, I don't know, unique in some ways, but also maybe the same as everywhere. We're all human, and I'm a little change averse. So yeah, again, I think it's just so important to have a variety of people in any field to get the best, like experimentation and optimization of everything that we do.
Do we need a variety of reactors as well? Should we be looking at lots of different kinds of SMRs along with big reactors, or are you pro, 1200 megawatt plus size? Where are we going with this resurgence? Where are we going to be building?
Yeah, I am pro all of the above, anything nuclear generally. I also want us to pick the absolute like easiest and best path forward, and not say, like, oh, well, we can't do existing nuclear because new nuclear is going to be safer, when, existing nuclear is already the safest way of generating electricity. And everything bad that's ever happened has had such low impacts. And especially if you consider that, we could behave differently in response to events. Like, it's not the event itself that caused a whole lot of damage, it's our reaction to it. And if we could control that, like, we could have vastly different outcomes, even better than what they are already, which is already really good. So generally, so yeah, I think we are experiencing more and more severe weather events due to climate change and a warming planet, warming oceans. I'm just, every day now I'm looking at the news and the amount of hurricanes and the flooding, and it's traumatizing to so many people. And I think we need energy sources that are going to be varied and robust, and like be able to, like, some are air cooled, some are water cooled, some can be sited here, some can be sited here. And I think SMRs could provide a lot of that flexibility. So I'm excited for different types of technology and different, plants with different combinations of all these properties, like fuel, moderator, coolant. Like, we can change all these things around and make a plant, that's good for this location or good for this use. And I'm so excited by those possibilities. And I'm also so excited by the idea that we need so much more clean energy. And so why make them small? Let's do large modular reactors. I mean, maybe we need a small one somewhere, in Alaska in a remote village. That's great, but we need so much more clean power. So let's really roll out these designs at scale in large ways whenever we can. And we know how to build AP1000, so I love the idea of the nuclear company, which is a great name. And they want to just roll out large nuclear. I love how Jennifer Granholm said, about Vogtle, 2 down, but 198 to go. We're going to do this because we can and we should. And it's never going to be perfect the first time. We have a lot to learn, but our industry is great at that, taking those lessons and making it work and making it better. And yeah, I'm excited for all the options. And I'm trying now, what's my role? Like, what's the angle that no one else is in right now or thinking about? And I still think that the role of Mothers for Nuclear is still really important, and that there aren't a whole lot of people communicating with mothers and women still. So as much as I'd like to, okay, I saved nuclear, I can stop doing this nonprofit advocacy stuff right now. It's not my strength, honestly. I mean, maybe it is. I think I'm doing all right, but I'm outside my comfort zone a lot. I feel like I'm a closet introvert, and I do this because I feel like I have to. Someone's got to do this, and it's got to be me because I have this story, and I can't really just hand that off to someone. So I keep going as long as it's needed. And, I will do whatever's most needed for our industry because I feel like it is the future and it supports the future of humans on this planet, my daughter and my sister and people that I care about. We need me to be doing this for nuclear, and that's my plan, I guess. Keep doing whatever's needed.
Well, you're doing an amazing job, and I think you don't undersell yourself. Your strength is your ability to run to that problem and bring your authentic self and say, look, this is who I am, and this is why I care about this. And it comes across so genuine. And I think that's what draws people in. It's not salesy. It's not fake in any way. It's like, hey, I'm this person, but I care so much about it. I'm willing to do the work, put in the time, put in the effort. And thank you for the shout out to the nuclear company. They've hired some amazing people. Shout out Joe Clutchett, Dave Woods, and others over there at the nuclear company. They've got a tremendous amount of experience from Vogtle and lifetimes worth of work in the industry.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how they help move things forward. They've got a great idea behind them and a great business case in my mind.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff happening, and yeah, what else do we want to say about that?
What are some of the misconceptions in nuclear? I think I shared earlier, my biggest pet peeve one is the smoke coming out of the cooling tower. No, Diablo doesn't have cooling towers. Most oceanside reactors don't, but that's the iconic kind of symbol often, and it's been shown in news clips in the past of polluting, and it's just a big humidifier. What are some of the other big misconceptions that you're often fighting?
Yeah, well, something that I first objected to because I'm like, no, that's just kind of silly to say that. But Isabel Isodope, she has these T-shirts that say nuclear energy is clean energy, and I'm like, yeah, but a lot of people just don't know that or don't agree with it, and I think it's just such an important thing to emphasize that there are no emissions from nuclear, and it's just a really strange thing. Kristen Zaitz, co-founder of Mothers for Nuclear, tells me that when she first started working at Diablo Canyon, she didn't even really realize that it was carbon-free electricity that we were making. Very gradual again, same as my transition, but I think that's huge. That nuclear is one of the cleanest and most powerful. The energy density. I also kind of object to all the discussions from nuclear advocates where we keep going to energy density because it's just that's very science technical, but at the same time it's so important and it's so great, and maybe we just need to shift how we talk about it because that's really the basis for why nuclear makes so much power and protects all the nature around it is because it uses very little resources, raw materials, less mining, because uranium is dense. less concrete, because like it's huge concrete, but we make so much power and it lasts for so long that yeah, so I think energy density is the answer to like what is the least understood thing about nuclear, is that it's so powerful and that makes all of the impacts across the board less.
Yeah, I think the statistic is wind and solar are roughly 300 and 400 times the land utilization for the same electric output as a nuclear
Yeah,
facility.
we've done various, like land comparisons with some of our largest solar facilities in California. The Ivanpah solar thermal generating plant. I think it would be like 26 of those to make one Diablo Canyon, and or 26 times the land. I don't quite remember, but yeah, and we also have the big solar plant out in the Carrizo Plains. It was the largest of its kind whenever it was first built. And, it's in this, beautiful area of the desert and, national monuments out there. And it's just like a sea of black. And it's a little discouraging. I mean, it's great because it's surrounded by nature as well, but it takes up so much more of it for, so much less reward. So, I support all clean energy, but I want us to do what's the least impactful to not just human health, but nature and our planet. And I don't want us to say no to nuclear because of misinformation and fear. And I hope that our industry will, emphasize those points, and also, keep listening with empathy to people that have concerns. We can't just say, well, we're so safe because we have, like all these barriers and levels of safety and equipment and redundancy and separation of trains. And, like we kind of like go down this rabbit hole of like, we're so safe because of look at all our equipment. And people don't really want to hear that. They want to hear like, yes, that's pretty scary, isn't it? Like, I agree with you. Like, earthquakes are terrifying, Like, let's kind of connect on that feeling first before being told, that it doesn't matter. So I think we still have shifting to do in that regard, and I hope Mothers for Nuclear is helping provide a good example for how to do that.
I think you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for helping shift the conversation away from no news is good news to it's all
Yeah.
good news.
Yeah,
And
let's talk about it all the time.
yeah, let's
Yeah,
talk
we go
about
to
it.
the
Let's get more.
store. Sorry, my daughter, she's just like, Mom, can you ever get through a conversation without talking about nuclear? Like every day, it's just like more. And she's like, again. But yeah, I just think we need so much more of it. It's hard for me to stop.
That's excellent. Well, thank you again. I think this is a great place to leave it. Thank you for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. It was even just as much of a pleasure learning about you, learning about your organization, and continue to follow and see all the great things you do as you move forward, past license renewal, on to the next hard thing that you're going to go run towards to help support.